Robert here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about why piano lessons are doomed unless and until we make some serious changes. And I'm always a little surprised by how little people care about this because piano lessons are a rite of passage for so many kids, yet it just seems to go without any kind of remark or critique that kids almost always leave piano lessons without having developed functional skills. And there are a few reasons for this. We should be making changes to address this. And I don't really see that we're doing that. So first of all, a little bit about me. I got my master's in piano performance in 1997 from the Eastman School of Music. And so this is some of the best credentials you'll find in like a local neighborhood piano teacher. If they've got a DMA, they're probably teaching in a college or something like that. So a master's degree from Eastman, one of the best schools in the country, you're not going to find better credentials for your local piano teacher. But Eastman helped me learn how to play. Eastman didn't teach me how to teach. I wish they had. It took me 20 years to learn how to teach after I graduated from Eastman. And the way I primarily did that is by spending several years studying technique with Sheila Page, who's one of the best teachers in the country. She teaches other teachers. Having her refine my technique, and I changed the way that I played, helped me teach technique to kids. But that still didn't give me everything I needed because I noticed technical instruction often didn't stick. The thing that makes technical instruction stick is audiation. And I learned audiation from working with Marilyn Lowe, the author of the Music Moves for Piano series, who passed away a couple of years ago, sadly. But I'm really thankful that I had those years to work with her. Audiation makes technique stick. I've learned to teach audiation in these 2-week seminars that the Gordon Institute of Music Learning offers every summer. I've taken 4 of these. They call them PDLCs. 4 different 2-week courses that I've taken over the course of the last few years. These are expensive and time-consuming. Teachers often don't have the luxury of time and money to spend on continued education when it's a reasonable assumption that if you've got a good degree in the field, you should be able to teach it, but you can't. So I want to talk a little bit about the interplay of students and parents and teachers. I realize I've been referencing teaching kids. This absolutely applies to adults too, because many current adults experienced these issues as kids when they were studying 10 or 20 or 40 years ago. Like I said, things haven't changed that much. So kids are squeezed in piano lessons. Every year, they're doing more and more after-school activities. I remember when I started teaching 20 years ago, I could usually get students on most days starting at about 3:30. Over the last 20 years, that's changed to where there are many days where I can't get students to start until 5:30. Students are spent at 5:30. Not to mention, it's not really cool for the teachers to have to rely on such a squeezed time frame to teach. It's not humane. And yes, I realize, let me turn my refrigerator off. I realize some teachers are able to lock in on the homeschool market so they can teach kids during the day. Other teachers are able to lock in on adult students so they can get those older students and teach them during the day. Those are things that individual teachers can do. They're not things that work for the profession as a whole. The bread and butter for the profession is kids who are in school, then after school they take lessons. Part of the reason that we've been forced into this situation of squeezing kids into a smaller and smaller time frame is I think that parents understand that piano lessons don't work. If and when parents understand the complexity of helping young people learn music, they understand that it requires a lot of support during the week. It requires kids to be at maximum engagement during the lessons, which they can't be when they've been at school for 8 hours and after school activities for 4 more hours after that. They're spent at that point. This requires special skill on the part of the teachers in order to know how to optimally engage students with musical activities. Because it's not a matter of just having them sit on the bench for an hour and play their repertoire pieces. That can work for 6 months to a year, 2 max, but that's why kids quit after 2 years without having learned. Because learning music requires a lot more. It requires movement activities to learn a rhythm vocabulary. It requires singing to learn about pitch relationships, to learn a tonal pattern vocabulary. And those are not things that I learned at Eastman. Those are things I put a lot of time and money into learning after Eastman. But a lot of teachers don't have the time and money to invest that for the aforementioned reasons. They're squeezed at every step in the process. Students are squeezed, teachers are squeezed, parents are squeezed. In many sectors of the economy, it would be up to the parents to say, look, my kid's not learning. I've paid you $2,000 for the last couple of years of lessons. Why can't my kid play Happy Birthday in different keys or improvise? Those would be reasonable questions to ask, but parents don't ask them. Parents don't have time. Parents are squeezed too. But parents are grown-ups. Teachers are grown-ups. Students often are not grown-ups. They don't have any say in the matter. But what does it do to the culture when we lose the musical voices of these kids who are in music lessons? Like, this would be the perfect opportunity for them to learn to express themselves with music. But is that what happens in music lessons? I don't think it is. And I've been saying this kind of stuff on my channel for 3-4 years now. Saying this does not get me attention. This is not entertainment. YouTube and TikTok are great for entertainment. They don't seem to be great for changing the culture. But I think every kid that goes through music lessons but doesn't come out with increased skills of how to express themselves with music, that's a powerfully dangerous loss for the culture. And we don't value teachers enough to help them learn how to help kids learn. It's a problem. I don't have all the solutions. Learning music learning theory after learning advanced technical skills, those are the pieces that allowed piano lessons to click for me, so that now my piano lessons are much more enjoyable with my students. And I mean, for the students too, they're enjoying themselves more and they're learning real skills. Piano lesson method books and conservatories, I think those are big parts of the problem, which also means that there's a huge opportunity there for them to be big parts of a solution. But piano lesson method books are written for teachers not to engage musically with students. They're called turn the page methods sometimes, because the idea is during the lesson, you read one page with the student, turn the page, read the next page, turn the page, read the next page. It's not about music at all. And if you go on Reddit, people will love to tell you what books you should buy to learn music. But it's so self-evident to me that you cannot learn music from a book. Music is sound, music is movement. You might learn the notes of a C major scale in a book. That's not music. It's instrumental technique, maybe, which is not unimportant. But musical vocabulary has to be there first. A musical presence, musical thought has to be there first. And that's learned through movement and singing, never from a book. If you go on online forums, they love to tell you what books you should buy. That's an abdication of responsibility for helping people learn music. It doesn't help people. It only delays their realization of how ignorant they are musically. And that's a shame. Conservatories help students learn repertoire. They don't help students learn how to teach. Even the pedagogy programs tend to be afterthoughts in conservatory. I took some pedagogy classes in my undergrad. I didn't learn about audiation, which I think is fundamentally the most important skill teachers need to know how to teach. If students are audiating, any other instrument they would ever want to learn can come much more easily. If students aren't audiating, it's nearly impossible to learn the instrument in any kind of meaningful way. Teaching requires there to be a relationship. You can't get that from a book. You can't get it with a teacher, but there has to be give and take. Teachers are also students. Students are also teachers. But it's the activities that the student engages in that result in learning or not the books that they bought or the technical exercises that they're putting time into. Music is a social art that requires time. It can't be rushed. Yet, parents tend to rush teachers for results. Teachers rush students for results. Teachers rush students into learning reading before students have learned audiation, thus preordaining the failure of the lessons. Audiation is a necessity. Parents rush teachers into performances. We want flashy recital pieces, then we'll know that the lessons are working. But that's not how it works. I can teach a new student to do flashy recital pieces in a year or two. But by making that the focus, I've neglected their audiation skills for a year or two. It's the audiation skills that build the foundation for a lifelong attachment and enjoyment of music. The recital is where kids learn that they don't like to play, or they mess up and are mortified for the rest of their lives about performing. It's not a good way to do things. Why don't more people care about this is my question. I mean, there's so many entertainment type videos that get so many views about how to learn piano, but they're just entertainment. You know, the substance of learning music is pretty freaking serious. It's serious. That doesn't mean that we can't have fun making music. We can and do. But all these kids who are going to music lessons and not learning music, and adults too, who are taking music lessons and not learning music, quitting after a couple of years having only learned that music isn't for them. But that's not right. That's not the way it should be. Music is for everybody. But the method books aren't helping teachers teach the things they need to teach. Conservatories aren't preparing teachers to teach the things they need to teach. Parents are requiring teachers to teach the things that don't work for kids, thus making the lessons more and more ineffective, thus limiting the amount that teachers can charge. Because if it was clear that lessons were working long term, and if parents knew what kids were learning, then teachers could command a higher price. Since that doesn't happen, teachers' income is limited, so they can't afford to take the continuing education courses that they would need in order to learn to teach well, because their graduate degrees didn't help them do that. So it's quite a complex array and intermingling of problems. But if we're not talking about it, we're never going to solve it. I think the first step is recognizing that piano lessons aren't working. Some teachers make it work, but that's based on their ability to monetize the logistics. But that doesn't really help the profession as a whole. Anyway, so this has been a fun talk. I just wanted to get these thoughts out there. It's so hard this time of year when teachers are teaching later, kids are spent, teachers are spent. There's no chance anybody's learning nothing, especially with the traditional model of piano lessons. With more singing and moving and activities, kids can learn. Even with the best lessons, though, this time of year, and as the days get shorter too, it's just so much harder for kids to learn. It's really heartbreaking and tragic to go from teaching lessons in the summertime when I can have kids come in early in the day, like 10 or 11 in the morning. They're just so bright-eyed and ready to learn. And then boom, the week that school starts, I don't see them till 5:30. It starts getting dark at 7. Their little souls have just been sucked right out of them. Yeah, so let's fix that problem. Let's do piano lessons that work. Let's value those lessons. Let's stop making teachers work so late and stop making kids work so late. Part of the reason we want kids working late is because their parents are working late, and that solves a daycare problem if the kids are in after-school activities. So, yeah, it's a capitalism problem. In capitalism, expression is doomed. Piano lessons are doomed. It's only going to get worse. Teachers are going to get more squeezed. Parents are going to get more squeezed. Kids are going to get more squeezed because there will never be enough that we can offer to keep wealth and power funneling upwards. So I reject that. I think music is power. I think expression is power. Yeah, all right. Thanks for listening. Bye.